Fox News Alert, because we have more now on the brand new bombshell from White House Press Secretary Jay Carney over the Benghazi emails, the ones recently released. Joining me now, Chris Plant, a radio talk show host, and Leslie Marshall, a syndicated radio talk show host and Fox News contributor. Okay, Chris, I don't know if you heard Jay Carney. He was sort of getting into it with the reporters today, who seemed to be angry at what he was classifying this email as, that it had nothing to do with Benghazi, rather a full mood of the Muslim world.
Astonishing, isn't it? Breathtaking. The dishonesty is reaching new levels. It would be laughable if it weren't about something so serious. But I think they're desperately clinging to their story because they know that this could be a real problem for not just the Obama administration, but looking forward for the Democrat Party, for Hillary Clinton, who is at the epicenter of this whole thing and has been peddling this story, as you pointed out earlier about the video, even to the families of the dead when their bodies were returning to Andrews Air Force Base. She was peddling this falsehood. Everybody that's been paying attention all along knows that this story has been a cover story, know that it was all about politics and claiming that Al-Qaeda's on the run and we can't allow the world to learn that our embassy compound in Benghazi was overrun by radical Islamic terrorists and they killed our ambassador. So they came up with this phony story. There's been one, quite honestly, lie layered on top of another. The CIA told us this. The CIA didn't tell them that. The White House didn't come up with this. The White House did come up with it.
It appeared that everyone was running for cover and everyone was kind of pointing the fingers at each other. And now we're coming down to the moment in time where this email comes out, Leslie. And it's from Ben Rhodes, and he's the communications director. And Jay Carney is CC'd on this email. And now Jay Carney is saying, no, you're not understanding this email like I did, even though the people who did this investigation to ask for those emails only asked for emails about Benghazi. Leslie.
Well, first of all, this is a 20-paragraph email, and I would agree with what was requested. But I'm one of those people, regardless of politics left or right, it's sort of like the Bible. I want to see all of the information in context. I want all 20 paragraphs released to the American people. If we want complete truth and we want complete transparency. Gretchen, as we just heard from an earlier guest, there have been 5 investigations. I'm not sure it's as much about lying and hiding and cover-up as they really, I think, jumped the gun and talked about what they thought something was and fearful of what it actually could be. And if the video prompted the terrorist attack or not, there are still obviously worldwide differences of opinion on that.
Well, that could be why the American public doesn't really like members of Congress anymore, because they don't ever get anything done. True. And Judicial Watch was able to get these emails. I want to move on to this. President Obama taking a hit after making these comments on his foreign policy this week.
It doesn't make for good argument on Sunday morning shows, but it avoids errors. You hit singles, you hit doubles. Every once in a while, we may be able to hit a home run, but we steadily advance the interests of the American people and our partnership with folks around the world.
So after the baseball analogy, he also said this to our own Ed Henry.
Well, Ed, I doubt that I'm going to have time to lay out my entire foreign policy doctrine. And there were actually some complimentary pieces as well about my foreign policy, but I'm not sure you ran them.
Well, even the New York Times isn't writing complimentary pieces now. Maureen Dowd saying, stop whining, Mr. President, and stop whiffing. An American president should never say every once in a while we may be able to hit a home run, especially now that we have this scary World War III vibe with the Russians. We expect the president, especially one who ran as Babe Ruth, to hit home runs. I don't know. That looks like a strikeout to me, Leslie.
Well, if we're going to say baseball, being a Boston Red Sox girl, Babe Ruth did not always get home runs, and I think the president was being truthful. And I think every president in this country, whether Democrat or Republican, has made errors. If we look back historically, are we calling Vietnam or Korea home runs? Maybe in hindsight, invading the sovereign nation of Iraq. There have been a lot of mistakes made by presidents on both sides of the aisle historically, and I think it's humble to own up to it.
Well, yes, but I guess a lot of people would argue about leadership and whether or not you think singles and doubles are just as good, and you admit to that. But Chris, where is the positive press? The president said that there's a bunch of positive press that maybe Fox News isn't covering, and yet you have people who have been his major supporters now writing editorials like the one I just read.
Blaming Fox News is small ball again, and it's petty, and he ought to be above that. He's the president of the United States. On his foreign policy, his foreign policy, to the extent that you can define as foreign policy, has been a disaster from start to finish. I don't think he has a foreign policy success to point to. The Iranians are marching toward nuclear weapons. Iraq has fallen apart because of the lack of a status of forces agreement. Al-Qaeda has occupied a part of Iraq. They're spilling over into Syria. Chemical weapons are being used there. The Israeli-Palestinian peace process fell apart. Ukraine is being chopped up. This guy's a tyrant's dream. The Chinese are rattling the saber at the Japanese. The Japanese are at the South Koreans' throats. The North Koreans are threatening more nuclear tests. I mean, it's an absolute calamity. China, I'm sorry, China is becoming the world's #1 economy, and our economic growth is 0.1%.
Well, that's a pretty long list there. I got to wrap it there, but have a great rest of the week. Great to see both of you guys.